All right, get ready, because today we are completely ditching that whole idea of success being about climbing some corporate ladder.
Ooh, I like that.
Right. We're diving deep into a YouTube podcast script. It's called The Unconventional Path to Success, Decoding Your Version of Winning.
I love that title.
Me too. It really grabs you. And we're going to figure out what winning really means, but like for you, not for, your parents or society, like for you.
Yes. And that's what's so cool about this script. It just throws the rule book out the window right from the start. It looks at all these different people, artists, entrepreneurs, even parents, and shows how they each define winning. And their versions look totally different.
That's what hooked me too. It really
Yep.
makes you stop and think, like, wait a minute, am I even chasing my dream? Or am I just, trying to live up to someone else's definition of success?
Totally. And that's where self-awareness comes in. And the script really digs into this.
Okay, yeah, tell me more about that.
So it's not just about, like sitting around and thinking about your feelings. It's about really getting to know yourself. Like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What gives you energy? What totally drains you?
Oh, man. Knowing what drains you. That's huge.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you know this stuff, you can start making choices that actually make you happy, not just choices that, impress other people.
Ugh, yes. This makes me think of all those times I said yes to projects just because they sounded fancy or whatever, but they ended up being, like, totally soul-crushing. If I had known then what I know now about what drains me, I would have said, no way.
Exactly. It's like having the superpower, You can spot those energy-draining situations a mile away and just steer clear.
So it's like a filter for opportunities.
Exactly. A filter for opportunities. And speaking of navigating opportunities, the script also talks about adaptability.
Ooh, okay, yeah, adaptability. We talk about that a lot on the show.
It's so important, especially in the world we live in now, which is like constantly changing.
You got that right.
Being able to pivot, to adjust, to kind of roll with the punches, that's key. Think about it. How many of those super successful people we admire, the ones who made it, how many of them got there by following a perfectly straight line?
Probably not many.
Probably zero. Life throws curveballs all the time, and being able to adapt and, even better, use those curveballs to your advantage.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
That's way more valuable than just rigidly sticking to some plan you made 5 years ago.
I'm starting to see why this is such a big deal. So we've got self-awareness, we've got adaptability. What else?
And then there's this idea of sustainable habits.
Okay, tell me more.
So the script goes after this whole hustle culture myth, this idea that you have to be grinding 24/7 to be successful.
Glorification of burnout.
Yeah, exactly. And the script is like, nope, if you're exhausted all the time, you're doing it wrong.
Oh, I love that.
Right. It's like a permission slip to stop glorifying that constant grind and start building a life that actually feels good, for the long haul.
So what do you think? What's the secret? Is it just about slowing down?
Well, I think it's about the difference between intensity and consistency.
Okay, interesting. I never thought about it like that.
True success, it's not about burning yourself out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah.
It's about showing up consistently day after day without sacrificing your well-being. It's like running a marathon, but it's a marathon on your terms, not some crazy sprint to impress everyone else.
Okay, but wait a minute. Isn't some hustle necessary? Like, you don't achieve amazing things by just chilling on the couch all day, right?
Oh, absolutely. Effort is definitely key. But it's about being strategic with your energy, not just pushing yourself to the point of burnout. And you know what? The script even reframes how we see failure.
Failure, you mean like messing up?
Yeah, exactly. The script is like, failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of the process.
Wait, so instead of beating ourselves up when we have setbacks, we should celebrate them.
Not necessarily celebrating, but definitely learning from them. It's about making a distinction, There's unproductive failure, where you just keep making the same mistakes over and over again.
Oof, yeah, been there.
And then there's smart failure, where you actually take the time to learn from those setbacks and adjust your approach.
Okay, so how do we know if we're failing smart or
Yeah.
just, plain old failing?
That's where that self-awareness comes in again. After a setback, take some time to reflect. Ask yourself, what did I learn from this? How can I use this experience to do better next time?
So it's like turning those failures into fuel.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
all about growth. I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together now, but how do we actually put these ideas into action? Well, that's where the cheat sheet comes in.
Cheat sheet. Like, we're allowed to cheat at success. I'm in.
It's more like a roadmap, The script outlines 4 steps to build your own personalized blueprint for success. And the first step is to define your win.
Define your win. Okay.
And don't just say, like, I want to be successful. That's way too vague. You got to get crystal clear on what success looks and feels like specifically for you.
So it's about really visualizing that feeling of achieving your goal. I can see how that would be super powerful.
Exactly. Once you have that clear vision, the next step is to reverse engineer it.
Reverse engineer it. Okay, now you're just using big words to sound smart.
No, but seriously, think of it this way. You're basically breaking down that big, scary goal into smaller, more manageable steps. Like creating a roadmap.
Yeah.
What milestones do you need to hit along the way to reach your final destination?
All right, that actually makes a lot of sense. This reminds me of like my goal of writing a book. Instead of getting overwhelmed by the whole thing, I could break it down into chapters, then sections, and just focus on writing a certain number of words each day.
Exactly. You're reverse engineering your goal.
Mhm.
And once you've got your roadmap, the next step is all about protecting your energy.
Protecting my energy, like wearing one of those anti-radiation suits.
Huh. Not quite. It's more about being intentional with how you spend your time and energy. Say no to things that don't align with your vision.
Ah, okay, so it's about being picky with my yeses.
Exactly. And finally, don't forget to celebrate those micro wins along the way.
Micro wins, like when I managed to get out of bed before noon.
Hey, if that's a win for you, celebrate it.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about acknowledging those small victories, no matter how small they might seem. Because those little wins, they add up. They keep you motivated and moving forward.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. So instead of waiting to pop the champagne when I finish writing the entire book, maybe I'll do a little dance every time I finish a chapter.
Exactly. Now, all of this might sound kind of abstract, but the script brings it all to life with a great story. It's about this guy named Alex, and he decides to, totally ditch his corporate job to open a vegan bakery.
Whoa, hold up, vegan bakery. That's a pretty bold move.
Right, and everyone thought he was totally nuts. But he had this, crystal clear vision of what he wanted to create. He wanted to, bring people joy through food.
Okay, I'm already liking this Alex guy. But how does his story connect to all this stuff we've been talking about? Like the self-awareness and adaptability.
So instead of just, quitting his job and immediately opening a bakery, Alex started small. He tested out recipes at farmers markets, got feedback, and just kept refining his offerings based on what people were saying.
So he was like actively embracing that smart failure we were talking about.
Totally. He used those early experiences to, learn and adapt. And you know what? He didn't let those little setbacks stop him.
I'm sensing a theme here. It seems like a lot of these unconventional success stories involve people who aren't afraid to put themselves out there, even if it means, facing some bumps along the way.
Exactly. And another thing about Alex, he was super focused. He didn't get distracted by every shiny opportunity that came along. He stayed true to his vision.
That's such a good reminder for all of us, right? It's so easy to get sidetracked these days with all the noise and everything. But staying laser focused on what truly matters, that seems to be a common thread among these people who are really making waves.
Absolutely. And you know what? All of that focus and hard work paid off. Alex eventually opened not one, but 3 successful locations. And he built this amazing community around his brand.
See, I knew I liked this guy. So his story shows that success isn't about following some predetermined path. It's about carving your own lane and staying true to what you believe in.
Exactly. And it reminds me of that saying, success is a marathon, not a sprint. But Alex's marathon was on his track, not some track that someone else laid out for him.
I love that. It's so inspiring. But okay, real talk, success can have a dark side, right?
Oh, for sure. The script talks about that too. One of the big pitfalls is getting caught up in the comparison game.
Ugh, don't even get me started on the comparison trap. It's like everywhere these days, especially with social media, you're constantly bombarded with everyone's highlight reel. And it's easy to start feeling like you're not doing enough or that you're not good enough.
Exactly. And what people forget is that they're comparing themselves to these carefully curated versions of reality. It's like comparing your blooper reel to someone else's perfectly edited movie.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good analogy. I hate when I do that. So how do we avoid falling into that trap?
Well, a big part of it is about cultivating a strong sense of self-worth that doesn't depend on external validation. Who are you deep down?
Right.
What are your values? What lights you up? What makes you unique?
Okay, yeah, so it's about remembering what actually matters to you, not what everyone else thinks should matter.
Exactly. When you have a strong sense of self, you're less likely to get swept away by the comparison game. Because you know your worth, regardless of what other people are doing or achieving. But sometimes, even when you have a good sense of self, you can still fall into another trap, and the script talks about this too.
Okay, what's this other trap?
It's kind of like an identity crisis where you pour so much of yourself into your work that you forget who you are outside of that.
Oh, I've totally been there. It's like your whole identity gets wrapped up in what you do, and then if something happens to that work, you feel completely lost.
Right, exactly. And that's why it's so important to, have a life outside of work, to nurture your passions and interests, to maintain those strong connections with loved ones. Because at the end of the day, those are the things that really matter.
It's like a reminder not to get so caught up in the pursuit of, quote unquote success that we forget about all the other important stuff.
Exactly. The script even has this line. It says, balance isn't sexy, but it's survival.
I love that. It's so true. We hear so much about hustle and grinding, but honestly, achieving that balance between work, relationships, and personal well-being, that's the real key to a fulfilling life.
It's about creating a life that feels whole, not just chasing achievements at the expense of everything else.
Okay, so we've talked about this unconventional path to success, the potential pitfalls, and the importance of really defining what winning means for you. What stands out to you as the most valuable takeaway from all this?
I think for me, it's the focus on personalization. This script is like a giant permission slip to throw out the rule book and create a life that feels authentically yours.
Totally agree. It's a reminder that success isn't a one-size-fits-all thing. It's about aligning your actions with your values, your passions, and your unique definition of winning.
It's about designing a life that you are obsessed with, a life that lights you up from the inside out, a life that makes you feel truly alive.
And it's not just about dreaming big. It's about taking action. Remember those 4 steps we talked about. Define your win, reverse engineer it, protect your energy, and celebrate those micro wins.
Yeah, those steps, they provide a roadmap for actually turning your vision into reality.
They're like tools that you can start using right now, today, to build a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling. And don't forget, the journey is just as important as the destination. Enjoy the ride.
Embrace the challenges, celebrate the victories, and remember, you don't have to have everything figured out right now. Just take it one step at a time.
As we're wrapping up this deep dive, I'm thinking about all the different ways success shows up in our lives. And it's not always about hitting some huge milestone or whatever.
Right.
It's often those small everyday victories, those things that, add up over time.
Absolutely.
What are some of those micro wins that you personally find motivating?
That's a good question. For me, I think it's those moments when I can connect the dots between different ideas.
Okay.
It's that aha moment.
Yes.
When something just clicks and you suddenly see the world in a new way, that feeling of intellectual growth, that's a huge micro win for me.
I love that. It's like you're always expanding your mental map of the world.
Exactly.
For me, it's those times when I can help someone see their own potential.
Yeah.
When I can offer a piece of advice or share a resource that just sparks something in them. That's a micro win that really fuels me.
It's about making a positive impact, even in a small way. And those ripples of influence, those moments of connection,
Yes.
those are the things that make the journey so rewarding.
Absolutely. And speaking of the journey, this script we've been talking about, it really encourages us to define our own version of winning. So I'm curious, what does that look like for you? What's your personal definition of success?
That's a big question. I think for me, success is about living a life that feels aligned with my values, It's about using my knowledge and experience to help others, to make a positive contribution to the world. It's about feeling a sense of purpose and fulfillment in what I do, even on those days when things are tough.
That's beautiful. It's not just about achieving something, it's about who you become along the way.
Exactly. It's about embracing the whole journey, The growth, the challenges, the triumphs, all of it.
Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on. We explored so much in this deep dive. We talked about defining your own version of winning, embracing those smart failures, and finding that sweet spot between hustle and well-being. What's one key takeaway that you hope our listeners walk away with today?
I hope they walk away feeling empowered, like they can actually create a life they truly love, a life that feels authentically aligned with who they are and what they want to achieve in this world.
Yeah.
A life that's full of joy, purpose, and those little micro wins that make it all worthwhile.
And remember, you don't have to have it all figured out right now. Just take one small step today towards that vision. Maybe it's revisiting your goals, identifying one thing you can say no to, or simply celebrating a small victory you've achieved this week. Every step, no matter how small, moves you closer to your own unique version of success. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep creating a life that truly lights you up.